And there's so many things that happen as we age. I remember in my 40s, and I was teaching yoga, and I would make a comment. They would say, "Oh yeah, just you wait." And not that I'm that old yet, or this is ageless, right? We're ageless. But as we age, there's definitely more things that come up. So we're going to have more potential to actually have that opportunity to overcome. And
Yes.
so the more things we overcome, then we feel proud of ourselves that we're able to overcome.
It's something Plato said. He said, "Now that I'm older, I've lost not just one, but many masters."
Today we have Dr. Loren Fishman with us. He is the medical director of Manhattan Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation in New York City. He is an author of 12 books and has authored over 100 peer-reviewed articles. He is a pioneer in the treatment of piriformis syndrome, low back, yoga for osteoporosis, and he works with scoliosis and has ongoing clinical trials to help patients with scoliosis. He spent 3 years in India before going to medical school, and he has used yoga in his patients in many areas to help them with osteoporosis and other physical issues that they may have. Today, we are fortunate to have Dr. Loren Fishman with us. Dr. Fishman is going to discuss restless leg syndrome today and give us some of the tools that he has used in some of his patients and on himself to cure restless leg syndrome. Dr. Fishman, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And today we are going to be discussing restless leg. Is it restless leg syndrome?
Yes, restless leg syndrome. Now, here's what it is. Usually it happens at night. You're lying down, ready to go to bed, and then you feel some buzzing, some vibration, some unsettling sensation in your legs. And then you move your leg and it goes right away, only to return 10 or 15 seconds later. And so you move your leg again. And then it happens again. And it can keep you up for hours at night. And there are medicines for it that work on your brain, and they are somewhat effective. But I know a cure that so far has never failed. I've done it on, I'd say, scores of people, maybe 35, 40 people. And I had this myself, which is how I first figured it out. And let me tell you what the cure is. It's a talking cure. Think of the nature of desire. What is it? Well, desire comes in waves, if you ever think about it. If you're quitting smoking, you want a cigarette, and then it goes away for a while, and then it comes back again. And it goes away, then it comes back again. Sort of like the physicists talk about waves of gravity. Never mind. There are waves of desire. And what you do, you don't do it all at once. One time when you're lying there in bed and the desire comes to move the foot because of the vibrations, you say, I'm going to hold off just one time and see what happens. And so you withstand those vibrations and you don't move your leg. And then the vibrations come again 3 seconds later, and you move your leg. All right, you give in, you do it. And then maybe the next time, maybe it's the next day, you try to withstand it for 2 waves. So the first wave comes and you don't do anything. The second wave comes and you somehow are able to withstand it. The third wave comes, you say, all right, I'm moving my leg. I'm not going to be a hero. And what you find with desire itself, it's like this. Wave comes, stronger wave comes, an even stronger wave comes. And then the next wave maybe is a little less. And then the next wave is even less. And the third is even less. And then it's gone. That's the way desire works. So your goal is to, over the course, you could do it one night, or it might take you 3 months to delay your movement. First 1 wave, then 2 waves, and then eventually you delay it enough so that the next wave, my goodness, it's smaller than the one before. It's less, I'm less tempted now than I was before. So it gets easier. And then the second wave comes again, even smaller yet. And the third wave comes and you've withstood it, and it's gone. And if you withstand it, strange to relate, one time, it will not come back. Or if it does, you do it again. Maybe you have to do it twice. Maybe you have to do it, I mean, this would be a very unusual case, 3 times. And then it's gone.
Wow. So
It's
I'm
yeah,
thinking this is mind over matter.
it's my
If you don't mind, it won't matter.
this is in a way mind over mind because it's all going on up here, the vibrations, the whole thing. But interestingly, to understand what's going on in placebo work up at Harvard, they have a whole building devoted to understanding what is the placebo response. I give you a pill and there's nothing in it but sugar, but you get 25% better. How does it work? Well, they're finding pathways in the brain that actually are that suggestible and actually affect the way you feel about whatever it is you're suggesting. And those pathways are almost identical with the pathways utilized in restless leg syndrome. So they are perhaps uniquely susceptible to this type of treatment. Is this a placebo treatment? No, this is a genuine bona fide treatment, but it works along those pathways. In other words, you are teaching yourself not to have those feelings. Never mind the response. You use the absence of a response, and that deters and eventually eliminates the feelings to which you were giving the response. You
Yeah,
just have to try it, and it may take you a while. I think I've given an adequate description of it right here. In case there isn't, in the book I wrote called Healing Yoga, I say almost exactly what I said here. I think I published about, I don't know, years ago, but it's got this stuff in it.
yeah, I did a little research before our discussion, and I've heard of restless leg, and I think I've definitely had that at some point. So I was looking up what is it or what do we know about it, and they were saying that dopamine is a player in restless leg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they give medicines that sometimes they're okay, but they have strange mental side effects sometimes too. And I'm as usual, I'm against the medicines unless you absolutely need it. If you try my method and for some reason it doesn't work, the medicines are better than nothing, you know? Oh, hold on, I'll tell you
Well,
what they say.
we've got the medicine called yoga, and actually
Right.
some of what's recommended or some of what helps restless leg is meditation and listening to music, meditation. These are some of the sleep,
Mhm.
exercise. So I would say that yoga is really, and that's kind of what you're talking about. We're talking about mental yoga, which all
Yes,
yoga, well, most yoga is mental.
yes. No, I'm quite on that street, because yoga, many things have unusual effects that you didn't bargain for, but the ones that yoga have, they're all advantageous. I don't know. I can't think of a negative side effect of yoga. People don't even fall and hurt themselves. It's extremely rare that anything bad happens to you from yoga. It's extremely rare.
Yeah, and I was also wondering about minerals. I remember I asked you once years ago in something. I don't know if we were in if I was in one of your workshops or something, but I
Hmm.
asked about cramps, and
Hmm.
you mentioned some of the causes of cramps could be dehydration, minerals, and tightness in the calves or in the
Hmm.
legs. And so when I was looking up restless leg, I was wondering if there was a correlation there, and I was looking to see if there was minerals involved, if minerals or dehydration at all could play a role in restless leg?
I think you could get restless leg if you didn't have enough calcium, you know, uh, or enough. That would be magnesium too. There are different electrolytes that could get you into trouble with, and something like restless leg. It wouldn't be exactly restless leg, but it would feel the same way. The medicines they're using are things like Mirapex and Nupro, Neupro, and Mirapex, Mirapex, and these work on the dopaminergic parts of the brain. And like anything that works on the dopaminergic parts of the brain, they can make you feel dumber. I mean, you really do feel. Are you actually dumber? I don't know, but you feel that way, and probably you feel that way. You are. So I'm against them, but and there are minerals that if they're deficient, they won't give you exactly restless leg, but they'll keep you up at night because of cramps more than restless leg. The restless leg looks to be a sheerly neurological phenomenon.
Okay, so that's why when you're talking about this remedy that you have, that is all neurological. It's,
All neurological.
yeah,
It's
really.
and it's so simple, and nobody even has to know you're doing it. That's a nice thing. If your husband or wife is lying next to you in bed, they don't have to know that you're, confronting your desires and trying to sort of control your responses to the desire, and which has a very interesting effect. It actually controls the desire.
Yeah, and that's actually very empowering when you can overcome something. When
Oh boy, is it.
and there's so many things that happen as we age. I remember in my 40s and I was teaching yoga and I would make a comment. They would say, "Oh yeah, just you wait." And not that I'm that old yet or this is ageless, right? We're ageless. But as we age, there's definitely more things that come up. So we're going to have more potential to actually have that opportunity to overcome. And
Yes.
so the more things we overcome, then we feel proud of ourselves that we're able to overcome.
And something Plato said. He said, "Now that I'm older, I've lost not just one, but many masters."
Yeah.
There's the
So
obvious one and the not so obvious ones.
yeah. So some of the other things that I was looking at for restless leg, because this is so neurological, when it was speaking about dopamine, it also said there were some studies done on some of this gut species because dopamine is, I think it said 50% of dopamine was produced in the gut. So
Generated by the
gut
gut.
health is going to play an important. I run functional labs. I run stool labs on clients and mineral labs on ladies with osteoporosis to help them metabolically take charge of their bone health. So not only do I bring in the yoga for the physical aspects, I run functional labs to help manage some of the root causes. I look at food sensitivities, I look at gut health. And when I was looking at the dopamine in the gut, some of the species that they were naming that are producing dopamine are the species that come up on this stool lab that I run.
Mm.
I found that to be really interesting.
Well, that is
So,
interesting. I mean,
yeah,
nobody understands it yet, but the gut, the intestine is the greatest endocrine organ in our bodies. I'm not talking about what it secretes into its own tube. I'm talking about what it secretes outward to the systemic circulation. There's so many hormones that come out of it. They haven't even got names for them. They call them M, L, R. They don't know what to do, and they have fabulous effects on everything. That's all. Only on everything.
yeah,
Your
there,
brain, your alertness, your muscle strength, your urine, you name it, it has an effect. Nail growth, you know.
which is like bones, right? Because nails and bones and teeth are made out of. So, with osteoporosis, it's the gut is a real big place to look at.
Actually a derivative from hair,
Nails.
glutenated hair that makes for your nails. I mean, it's the same type of cells and, coming out the same way in the part of the ectoderm. So they're not like the bones are mesoderm. I mean, different unlock
Okay.
in the embryo and how they develop into us, you know. But it definitely has a correlate in the gut.
Yeah, there's a new name that's coming out with all the, all of our understanding and research called the endobolome, endobolome, which
Uh-huh.
is estrogen in the gut. And so
Mhm.
I've been trying to learn more about that with women with osteoporosis, really trying to, for those of us in menopause, menopausal females, we need to do the best we could do with whatever estrogen we have left. So if
Yeah.
healing the gut is going to be a part of that. But the other things about restless leg that came up were sleep and there's yoga nidra, which is emulating sleep or bringing the body into that state of sleep to get that deep repairing and restoring. So that's another yoga practice.
Yeah. Well, the East, all over the East, I think it's in China and Japan and Korea also. They make many more gradations. I mean, we Westerners, there's being awake and then there's being asleep. And that's about it. I mean, we know being knocked out, like in a prize fight, is not the same as sleep, but it's certainly not awake. And that's about as far as we go with it. But in the East, they have all kinds of wonderful gradations between sanity and sleep, many different ones. And Yoga Nidra reaches down several levels. You can watch yourself descend if you do it. It's a beautiful practice. Man, what was his name? It wasn't Satya Vivet. It was, I can't think of it. It was Satyananda wrote a
Satyananda.
beautiful short book in which he describes yoga nidra, and he does his yoga nidra, which is beautiful. And I don't know if it would help with restless leg, but it helps with restless person.
So, Dr. Fishman, is sanity considered full alert awakeness and
That's
sleep is the
what I meant.
opposite?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you could also say in this crazy world, true alertness is insanity. I'm not
Yeah.
calling that.
One of the other things for restless leg is music. And as you were, so in yoga, mantras are what I think of in a way with music. And you actually were doing these if you're self-talk, right? Your self-talk, I'm not gonna shake my leg or I'm not gonna give in to my
Mhm,
leg. There's
mhm,
almost a little like self-talk, self-mantra going. And mantra, man means mind, tool means tra means tool. Mantras are mind tools. So you
mhm.
had this your own little mantra. I'm not, what did you say? I'm not going to shake my leg. I'm not going to move my leg. What was the
No,
word? What were the words you
try
said to yourself?
you try to strengthen your muscle to, what Mark Twain said, I can resist anything except temptation. you know, and you don't resist it too much. You get that's it's too heroic. It's too big a deal. Resist it a little bit at a time. Get that muscle stronger so you can resist it. You won't have to go very far. You get very good at it rather quickly, and then you'll find that by possibly by having confidence in your own ability to resist it, the phenomenon disappears. That seems to be the way it is. Sort of what Franklin D. Roosevelt said: "We have nothing to fear but fear itself."
Yeah.
This is like that. This is like that. When you resist the desire disappears. The way
So,
the fear disappears when you no longer fear itself.
so what were the words you were saying to yourself then? You said the desire comes up. So restless leg is a desire to move the leg.
Yes.
And so your thought, what were you saying to yourself? I'm not going to move it.
Let's see what happens if I don't move my leg.
Okay.
It's going to get truly unbearable or what? And this is what I did when I had it. I said, I got interested in it. Let's see what happens. What is this vibration trying to tell me? You know. So I just let it go once, and I understood it rather easily. So I said, let me see if that what happens again. And it wasn't very many times. Maybe there were 3 waves of it, and then it started to diminish and diminish further, and was gone. And I waited for it to happen again. It never happened again. And
Wow.
so I tried it on someone with absolutely no insight. All right. He was I hope he's not listening. He was a pilot in the Korean, the Vietnam War. And he was so afraid of sharks that he carried a little cyanide capsule with him. If he saw the telltale black fin, he was going to take the cyanide and kill himself. I mean, this man was not ready to have psychotherapy. You know, he was, put it lay the cash on the ground on the barrel or go out. He was not someone with insight, self knowledge, introspection, and it worked on him.
Oh, wow.
I think it'll work, and I've tried it not that many times, maybe 30 times in my life. People come to me and they say, "Doctor, I have something very unusual," and they talk to me about it, and I tell them what to do, and they do it, and it goes away. It's very interesting, and I strongly encourage you to do it. And
Yeah.
what's the side effect? I suppose you could have abject feelings of self-worth or low self-worth if you weren't able to withstand the vibrations. That's about it.
Well, then maybe they could look deeper. We could go into gut health and they could start looking there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, this is great because all of these little things that happen to us in our lives, the more that we can minimize them, then
right.
that improves the quality of life.
Mhm. And your feelings of self-mastery,
Yeah.
which is sort of like the cure that cures the cause. The working on the effect that cures the cause, which is what we're doing here. But it emboldens you to do things that you might not have tried before, to step off of the sidewalk and get out there in the mainstream and do something of redeeming social value in your life.
Yeah. And then when you realize the power of your mind, because this is going to bring that up, then you will be more inclined to start to try other things
Mhm.
and to not look for the pill for everything. Because I think that's what we've been trained. It just seems to be that that's what's happened. We there's a pill for that. When medicines were being discovered, whenever last 100 years, we always would look for a pill. And I know that my parents' generation, everything is about go to the doctor, get a pill, go to the doctor, get a pill. You're sick, go get an antibiotic. And so we have to move away from that because medicine's not going to cure everything.
No, it's just, you know, we have to say, I mean, in many ways, I'm a dead opponent of the pharmaceutical industry, but they have done some wonderful things. Think of the cure of polio, smallpox. You know, millions of people, maybe hundreds of millions of people, have led so much better lives because of the pharmacy. Look what they did with COVID in a year. You know, there was the epiphonic encephalitis in the 1920s, the Spanish disease. Nobody knew how to cure it. Many people either died or became permanently disabled, lost their intellect or their personality, or both. And the pharmaceutical, you know, these guys have really done some wonderfully good things that have never, as far as I know, have never been approached in the history of the world. And now they're plunging in one level deeper beyond DNA. They're looking at, as you called it, the enterobome biome, the interior biome. What's going on in here? You know, the yogis often use this example. They say, be still. Be as still as a candle in a windless place. And you picture this flame pointing straight up and not wavering. But if you think about it for a second, what's going on inside that flame? There are convections and conductions and oxidations and all kinds of a maelstrom of activity is in there. Am I right? Well, the same is true of us. It's not just that our hearts are beating and the blood is flowing. All kinds of things are going on, you know, well beyond anything we could either consent or refuse.
Yeah,
And we're learning at a deeper level than
yeah,
ever before.
the more still we are, the more we allow the body to go into its desire for homeostasis. We're in that parasympathetic branch. We allow repair, healing, restoring, rebuilding to take place. So we can become that still flame and allow that repair work to take place inside.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I mean, from this is more yogic, and I know that that's what you think too. But when you say a windless, like in a windless environment, but what we live in is such a windful environment, right? We have so much
It's
coming
so
at us. We have so much sensory input that we are relatively still. And I wonder if in some ways, Dr. Fishman, because this discussion is on restless leg, I sometimes think that when people have trouble sleeping, it's because if you don't find stillness throughout the day, if you don't find calm, then when you finally do stop your body, when you put on the brakes and you're no longer moving, there's like this reverberation and this still movement that's taking place from the day. You know, you're either thinking about all these things, or I wonder if restless leg is kind of like a,
Mhm.
maybe
The
unplayed.
momentum,
Yeah.
restless mind syndrome. That's what some people have. It stops them from sleeping. I mean, sleep, as you get older, the parts of your brain that promote and perpetuate sleep suffer. They get smaller, they get less active, and sleeplessness it's like osteoporosis. It is an illness of the older. I mean, plenty of young people have insomnia too, but it's sort of, almost reliably going to be there as you get older. And there are yogic methods for that. Maybe we should have another little session once where we talk. I have a yoga method for sleep that it's failed a couple of times, failed on a friend, but it has had spectacularly positive results. And maybe next time we can talk about that.
Yeah, that's great. I love how our conversations lead into what's next. So
Yeah.
that would be great, because there's a lot of research coming out on sleep and the value of sleep. And honestly, one of the ways to heal restless leg is to sleep. So it's
Yeah.
even one of the recommended. There was a study that came out of University of Virginia lately that talked about is it called the glyphoid system? There's something in the brain.
The glimpse system.
Glymphoid. Yeah, there was research out of Virginia on that with sleep.
There's a woman at the University of Wisconsin named Ledergård, Elizabeth Ledergård, a Danish woman, who discovered that when you see the brain doesn't have lymph in it. I mean, if it did, then the neurons would be so far separated by the lymph, they couldn't connect with each other. The brain would lose its function entirely. So when you sleep, the glial cells, GLIAL, this is why it becomes glymph, but the G comes from glial, open up, and admit water, kind of like the service road on a superhighway. The connections are still there, but it's flowing along each side of them are now channels where lymph fluid flows in. You've got a lymph system. That's what your sleep does. And, you know, the process of thinking, imagining, fearing, getting excited, all produce certain byproducts that become toxic in sufficient concentration. So the lymph system opening up this water, it washes it out of the brain, just the way the tide coming in can clean a beach. Then it swoops out again and carries with it all the plastic toys and bottle wrappers and everything else. They get carried out. And so it is with the metabolic products of the brain. TCA, you know, there are different products that come out of the brain that slow it down, and that's what makes you feel fatigued. And so a little sleep, you know, what does Shakespeare say? That knits the raveled sleeve of care. That's what it does. And
I
so,
love the way you speak. I love the eloquence. Sometimes I need a dictionary for some of the words you say, but I love how you make references to all these.
I'm such a nerd, I'm telling you.
I love it. I love it though. Well,
So
yeah, that's great. Okay, so we'll have a discussion on sleep because that's great. You just made me think of sleep is like giving your brain a bath.
exactly. And then you
Yeah,
let the water out of the bath. The
yeah.
brain stays and the water goes.
That's really
Yes,
great. So yes, let's discuss that. I mean, I love speaking with you, and I think that the women that are
thank you.
listening really love to hear this. I mean, they want to hear this because they're, you know, the 15-minute office visit with a doctor with a diagnosis, and then they leave, and it's like, now what?
No,
So,
medicine has turned for many people from a profession, from a calling to an industry, you know, profession, like being an actor or something else. You know, it's 3:30, I'm signing out. You know, they don't
yeah. Well, I
care
don't
what's
blame
changed.
you. I mean, I go to see my dermatologist. I choose the early visit. I go there at 7:30, and I just think, wow, he's got like 40 more people to see after me.
Yeah.
40 more smiles to put on to walk into the office. You know, he's doing a pretty high volume. And
Mhm.
so when I go and see him, I just think, wow, what would that be like day in and day out?
Yeah. I'm the opposite. I smile. I really like my patients, and I see each one for an hour.
Oh, wow.
Everybody I see for an hour, you know, the first time. And the second time, sometimes it's an hour too, but anyway, it's half an hour. No, I don't do that. I refuse to do it,
Okay, I
you
love
know.
that. So you're licensed in New York only?
Yeah. But
Okay,
I,
so
I mean, I Zoom with people all over the world all the
okay.
time.
Okay, so
And
that's
those
good to
are not
know.
an hour usually. Usually those are shorter, but I do them all the time. If it lasts an hour, it lasts an hour. I apportion an hour.
Okay. I'll write that down in the show notes
Oh,
because that's, yeah, well, really, and that's, women are looking for physicians that will give them the answers. I don't want to say give them the answers they want to hear, but
you
not
give them
just
the right
like
answer.
give
Give them
them
the
give them
information they
give
want.
them the information and give them options and
Mm,
empower them and really let them know what is possible that they can do. We don't want to feel powerless. We don't want it to be that here's your diagnosis, whatever that is, and feel powerless that we have nothing to do. Okay, now tell me what I can do. And that's what they want to hear.
I have had more than one patient say to me, I refused. I have osteoporosis. And the doctor told me I should take this medicine. And when I refused, he said, either you take the medicine or you find another doctor. In other words, the doctor didn't even give himself any or herself any options. You know, they said, you know, I won't do, there's nothing else I want to do and I won't see you anymore.
Well, they're not a yogi like you. They didn't study with Dr. Iyengar. They don't have the practice that you have and the knowledge of how effective this is. So,
It really works. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well,
Anyway, a
Dr. Fishman, thank you once again for sharing your wisdom with us.
pleasure. See
Yes.
you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to Stronger Bones Lifestyle Podcast. Bone loss is not an inevitable part of aging. We don't have to just wait for it to happen. There is so much that you can do. And that is what you will learn each week on the show. Go to my website, DebiRobinson.com, if you want more information about what was shared in today's episode. At the bottom of this episode in the show notes, there will be links to whatever was shared. Please subscribe to this podcast, share this podcast with your friends, your family, or any women that you think may be interested or benefit from the information we're sharing. Please rate the podcast. And if you have any questions you'd like asked or answered, I would love to hear from you. Let's do this, ladies. Let's change the way the world views osteoporosis and slow down, stop, or reverse our bone loss, take charge, and show other ladies what is possible. Thank you so much for joining me.